absolutely. So do you want to jump in tech world? Okay, how technology keeping us healthy and happier?
Yeah, love to. Yeah, because when we see, it's interesting to start in a period of time to think of the big picture, but we can't live in the big picture because we live in the real world and with real at the tactical level. And so even though, the people living in extreme poverty is really low, basic education is high, literacy rates are high, vaccinations are high, the number of people around the globe that are living in a democracy versus a totalitarianism is democracy is high, and the totalitarianism is low. We got to say, well, that doesn't happen by chance, first off, and secondly, it's interesting, but we can't live there, right? We can't put food on the table thinking about these big grand things. We got to think about what can we affect and what can we do with the people that are around us. And so we're getting asked by companies in the manufacturing space and other organizations to help them in this transition. Their operations now, the way that they're doing business now isn't broken, but their concern is that they're going to be replaced or evolved out of business, or their market share isn't going to be sustainable, knowing that things are changing again. And it's changed recently enough that they can remember a time when the way that they're doing business now wasn't the way that they thought they were going to do business when they started their companies. And so whether it's communications technology, internet technology, computer technology, the supply chain, they're getting parts from many different suppliers, sometimes around the globe. And so the complexity of their operations now is at a higher level than what they ever thought it was. And so they've seen change up to this point. They know change is coming again, and they're saying, okay, what do we do about it? And how can we take some control in this process versus letting it happen? And somebody's going to win. They want to be the winners. And that at that tactical level is really what's interesting to me now. And so I think we talk a lot about at the C-suite level about leadership and transformational leadership. What's it mean to be a leader of distributed teams, and how do you organize efforts around innovation, where you have to have a rational exploration of options. It's not academic research at a university, which is needed at the fundamental level, but what we're really looking for are what are some likely objectives that we could achieve, and what are the requirements to meet those objectives, and then how do we actually do the work to meet the requirements. And so leading teams that are oftentimes cross-functional, many times those teams are not only cross-functional, but some of them are made up of members in your organization. Some are with partner organizations, or they're from consultants or project teams, and that kind of stuff becomes really challenging. And you have to be very focused, because one of the things that we're at the stage of now in artificial intelligence, and basically intelligence oriented programming. So some of it's AI, some of it's deep learning, some of it's probabilistic programming, some of it's just pure algorithms, is how do we use all the tools in our tool set most efficiently? And what's the optimal learning that we can apply to this problem to get to where we need? So because nothing is free. We could store data much less expensively than we have ever had, but the collection of data isn't free. And so we have to say, well, how much time do I have? How much money do I have to collect this data? What's the likelihood of finding
data, right? I want to collect, right? What is the data? Because I cannot be collecting all
what
the
is
data.
The
It becomes expensive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and making representations of that data. So not only do you need to collect the data, but very early on, especially in IoT and distributed networks, even with 5G, pushing that data up through 5G into data centers, the data centers are still having a choke point, right? They can only ingest data so quickly, and our ability to push data is expanding so rapidly that the data centers are having a hard time ingesting that data. And so what happens is you could still send it, but if you want real-time and short latency decisions, you have to make a representation of that data and only send a representation up to the data center. in real time, and then later in off-peak times, you can send the raw data. And you also see the pressure to, and this is really interesting, and this is one of the things that we really are focusing on at the Intelligence Factory. You see the pressure of pushing inference to the edge. So you want to make smart devices have some autonomy and be able to have real-time interactions with the data that they're coming in, that they are sensing. And that's really exciting, because one of the things that I really want to do, I'd love to live in a Star Trek world, and hopefully my purpose is to get us a little bit closer to that, is to be able to put AI into the real world and real applications for real people. And that means you have to make it small. You can't, most of us don't have, millions of images and data sets, right? We don't have the data that Amazon trains on and Netflix trains on, and YouTube trains on. We've got realistic, real world size data sets. And what we're doing at the Intelligence Factory is making AI that can be reliable and explainable and has a high utility on realistic size data sets. And that's really cool, because I think that opens up the possibility for smart machines, smart devices to be in the real world, and learn at, hopefully, at getting closer to a pace at which people learn, which is really what I want, where I want to go.